that dualism cannot be immediately bridged. I mean, we take for granted this idea in Jewish thought now that the world, the universe, is created yesh me'ayin, ex nihilo, something from nothing. But that wasn't obvious to Philo. And in fact, Philo is quite happy with the idea that the divine comes along and finds, in a sense, an eternal primordial matter and imposes upon it divine form to create the world. But there cannot be a direct contact between the divine and this material realm, and Philo therefore is primarily responsible for this incredible device, this intermediate device between the divine and material reality, which he calls, here's Philo, which he calls da. I was getting all the answers before. I was almost about to ask you to give the talk. This is the Logos. The Logos is the revelation of the divine mind. It is a specific intermediary level. We never, don't forget that Philo is sitting outside the whole of the Midrashic project. He's parallel with Chazal, but we never really picked him up. The Logos, of course, became a famous doctrine in another religion. Obviously, Christianity utilized, the beginning of John. You know, in the Logos, ketologos, in prostos theon in the Greek. In the beginning was the Word. For Philo, this Logos is in effect the Torah. The Torah is the divine revelation of wisdom. The mind of God must intermediate between the essential divine and this primordial material that is going to be the world. It's a very, very big idea, and in Judaism, it basically went nowhere. What did go somewhere was Philo's incredible allegorizations of Tanakh. Philo was not only a Platonist, he was also a Stoic. The Stoics had been around for a while, sitting down with their primary fundamental text, which was, what for the Greeks was basically the big cultural document? Homer. So they're sitting down with Homer, allegorizing Homer, and Philo does pretty much the same thing for the Torah, but comes out with an incredible, come in, take a seat, incredible parallel midrash. This first stage of Jewish philosophy, this thorough, Philo is a fascinating figure. I don't know if anybody's read the writings of Philo. If you're going to read the writings of Philo, sorry? Josephus is just after Philo, but what's amazing about Philo is his deputation to Gaius Caligula. You know that, you know who Gaius Caligula was, right? Total psycho, emperor of Rome, woke up one morning and said, I think it'd be a great idea, in around the year 40, he thinks, I think it'd be a great idea if there was a 10-foot gold statue of me in the Holy of Holies in Jerusalem. And this massive delegation went from Alexandria and also from Israel to Gaius Caligula, and they basically said, if you read the account of Philo, who led the delegation from Alexandria, which was one of the biggest diaspora communities we had, this is Philo, he's leading the thing, and basically he gets 15 minutes with Caligula as Caligula's inspecting some banquet hall for some party or something, and he turns to making total mockery of Judaism. He's turning around and they said to him, do you realize that if you do this, every Jew in the land of Israel will kill themselves before they let you do this? And Caligula said, and? They actually made the statue. It was on its way from Damascus, where it had been made, to Jerusalem when Caligula died. Oh. And therefore the decree was annulled. In fact, for many years, the 22nd of Shvat was a mini Purim, regardless the day of the that Caligula died. We actually celebrated his Yatzat as a Chag. The real project of Jewish philosophy doesn't get going until much later. It doesn't really get going until around about the 10th century. It's not like we weren't doing anything. I mean, in that 1300 years between the Greeks and the 10th century, we're busy. I mean, we've created the Tanakh, we've created the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Midrash. We've sprouted 2 major world religions. We have to respond to Manichaeism, Zoroastrianism, Gnosticism, and 100 other ideologies. We're busy. But round about the 10th century, Islam had developed a very, very highly sophisticated school of philosophical thought, known famously by the brand name of the Kalam. And the Mutazilite Kalam were basically coming to Jewish thinkers and saying, you've got a corporeal God. I mean, Allah is completely abstract and reified. But your God, he's got hands, he's got eyes, he's got a voice. Obviously, this was a big intellectual challenge. And fortunately, we had the person to deal with it. Because in the, yes?
Why did they think that, what was their base that our God has eyes and hands?
Because it says in the Torah,
Where?
Einei Hashem.
Yeah, he sees everything.
Yad Hashem. So they come in saying, look, dudes, you know, what's going on with you? Do you actually think your God's got like hands and eyes? At the end of the night, so there are many ideas and ways in which we understand this today that we take for granted, that were simply not present in the 9th and 10th centuries when the Kalam was making these challenges. But of course, sorry?
The Mataku says that who are these people like the Rambam and the Ramban who are coming with these new ideas that God doesn't have a body? Of course God has a body.
Yeah. I think if you look carefully at Chazal, they have a problem with the idea of God having a physical corporeal body. By the 9th and 10th century, at the end of the 9th century, there was, of course, born in the Fayum in Egypt, probably the biggest figure of several hundred, of the entire Gaonic period, basically the period from 500 to 1000, which we call in Jewish history the Gaonic period. This guy, of course, is Sa'adja ibn Yosef al-Fayumi, who at the age of 25 went to Bavel, became the Aluf and then the Gaon of Surah, dealt with many, many controversies, dealt with the Karaim. He had to deal with Chiwi of Balch. Anyone know who Chiwi of Balch is? We don't even know who Chiwi of Balch is today. But in the 9th century, in the 8th, 9th century, Chiwi of Balch was regarded as the Apicorus par excellence. The dude had written 200 unanswerable questions on Judaism that had left people blitzed for centuries. You know, so he had to deal with that. He had to deal with big conflicts over the calendar, over the Masoretic text, and eventually he managed to sit down after having a massive fight with the Reish Galuta and got sacked as the Gaon of Surah, sat down and goes, now I've got some time with the 5% of my brain that's not occupied with all that, I'm going to deal with the Kalam. Sa'adja Gaon basically wrote Emunot V'Deyot, which is the first fully systematic treatise on Jewish philosophy.
Did he make the Siddur too?
There's Amram, but obviously the Gaonim, the Siddur is something that developed during the Gaonic period. Amram Gaon is most famously connected with the Siddur, but Sa'adja had some quite considerable input as well. Amram was just prior to Sa'adja. Sa'adja Gaon, in Emunot V'Deyot, and I wish, we could talk for hours about Emunot V'Deyot itself, but the essential idea that Sa'adja brings into Jewish thought, first of all, is to establish that we have several sources of knowledge.